Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Storytime English. I am so glad you are here with me today. Take a deep breath, let your shoulders relax, and let this story carry you gently through time. Now, imagine for a moment that you are standing in a long, dark corridor. The air is thick. It smells of sickness. On both sides of you, hundreds of men are lying on the floor. They are soldiers. They are wounded. They are groaning in pain. Some are calling for water. Some are calling for their mothers. And nobody is coming. It is night. There is almost no light. The darkness feels heavy and hopeless. And then a soft glow appears at the end of the corridor. A small flame inside an oil lamp. A woman is walking toward you. She moves slowly, carefully, between the rows of dying men. She stops beside each one. She checks his bandage. She holds his hand. She whispers something kind. The soldiers watch her pass. One by one, they grow quiet. Some of them reach out to touch her shadow on the wall as she walks by. Her name was Florence Nightingale, and that small lamp she carried changed the world. Stay with me, my friend. This is her story. The year was 1820. On the 12th of May, in the beautiful Italian city of Florence, a baby girl was born to a wealthy English family. Her parents were traveling through Europe at the time, as many rich English families did. They named their daughter after the city where she was born, Florence. Florence's family was very rich. They owned 2 large houses in England, grand homes with beautiful gardens, libraries full of books, and servants who did every kind of work. Her father, William, was an educated man who believed that his daughters should learn just as much as any son. This was very unusual. In the 1800s, most people believed that girls did not need an education. Florence was an excellent student. Her father taught her mathematics, history, philosophy, and several languages. She could speak French, German, Italian, and even some Greek. She was intelligent, curious, and serious. She loved numbers. She loved to organize things. She had a sharp and careful mind. But Florence was not happy. She had everything a young woman of her time could want: wealth, education, a comfortable life, beautiful dresses, fine food, parties with important people. Yet, she felt something was missing, something important. She looked around at the other young women in her social circle. They seemed content with this life. They wanted to marry well and raise families. Florence wanted something else. She just did not know what. When Florence was 16 years old, something happened that she would remember for the rest of her life. She believed she heard the voice of God, calling her to serve others. She did not know exactly what this meant yet, but she felt, deeply and clearly, that she was meant to help people who were suffering. She wrote about that moment in her diary. She said it was as clear as someone speaking to her in the room. As the years passed, Florence became certain of what she wanted to do. She wanted to become a nurse. Her family was horrified. You see, in the 1840s, nursing was not what it is today. Nurses were not trained professionals. Hospitals were dirty, crowded, and dangerous. Many nurses had no education at all. Some were drunk while they worked. Nursing was considered the lowest kind of work, something only the poorest women did when they had no other choice. And here was Florence, a young woman from one of England's finest families, saying she wanted to work in such a place. Her mother was furious. Her sister was embarrassed. They said no. Absolutely not. Florence was expected to marry a wealthy man, hold dinner parties, and live a comfortable, quiet life. That was what women of her class did. That was all they were supposed to do. But Florence refused. Year after year, she refused to give up her dream. A wealthy young man asked to marry her. His name was Richard Monckton Milnes. He was kind, intelligent, and he loved her. Florence thought about it for a very long time, but in the end, she said no. She wrote in her diary that she had a moral, an active nature that required something more than a comfortable married life. She chose her calling over love. She visited hospitals in secret. She read every book she could find about health, disease, and patient care. She studied reports and collected information. She waited, and during those long years of waiting, she sometimes fell into deep sadness. She felt useless. She felt trapped. She wrote in her private notes that she felt she was dying of frustration. This waiting lasted more than 10 years. 10 years of arguing with her family. 10 years of being told no. 10 years of feeling trapped inside a beautiful life that did not feel like her own. Think about that for a moment. 10 years. Finally, when she was 31 years old, Florence convinced her family to allow her to travel to Germany. She went to a place called Kaiserswerth, near Dusseldorf, where a group of religious women ran a small hospital. There, for the first time, she received real training as a nurse. She learned how to care for the sick. She learned about cleanliness, medicine, and how hospitals should be organized. She was extraordinary at it. She was calm, disciplined, and tireless. She noticed everything. She remembered everything. She had finally found the work she was born to do. In 1853, she became the head of a small hospital for women in London. She reorganized the entire place. She improved the food. She cleaned the wards. She trained the staff. She proved that she could lead. And then, in 1854, a war changed everything. Britain, France, and Turkey had gone to war against Russia. Historians call this the Crimean War. British soldiers were sent far from home to fight on the coast of the Black Sea, and they were dying. Not just from enemy bullets, they were dying from disease. Reports arrived in England describing terrible conditions in the military hospitals. Soldiers lay on dirty floors. There were no clean bandages. There was no soap. There was not enough food. The water was dirty. Diseases like cholera, typhus, and dysentery spread through the hospitals like fire. More soldiers were dying from sickness than from battle wounds. The British people were shocked and angry. They demanded action. And one man knew exactly who to call. Sidney Herbert was a politician and a friend of Florence. He wrote to her and asked, would she travel to the military hospital at Scutari, near the city of Istanbul, and take charge of the nursing? Florence did not hesitate. She said yes immediately. She gathered 38 nurses, carefully chosen women she could trust, and traveled across Europe to the war. When she arrived at Scutari, what she found was worse than anything she had imagined. The hospital was an enormous old building called the Barrack Hospital. It was built to hold about 1,700 patients, but there were more than 4,000 men inside. They were packed together on the floor, shoulder to shoulder. The building was filthy. Rats ran across the floors. The sewers beneath the building were blocked and overflowing. The smell was beyond anything words can describe, and the men were dying. Every day, more died, not from their wounds, from infection, from disease, from the conditions of the hospital itself. The place that was supposed to save them was killing them. Florence took control. She did not panic. She did not cry. She did not turn away. She looked at the horror around her, and she began to work. She did not ask for permission. She did not wait for orders. She cleaned. She organized. She demanded fresh supplies, soap, clean bedsheets, proper bandages. She hired workers to repair the sewers beneath the building. She set up a kitchen to prepare proper food for the patients. She opened windows to let in fresh air. She separated the sickest patients from the others to stop disease from spreading. Many of the military doctors did not welcome her. They resisted her. They said nurses had no place in a military hospital. They told her she was interfering. But Florence was not a woman who gave up easily. She had waited 10 years to follow her calling. She was not going to stop now. Slowly, steadily, the hospital began to change. The floors were clean. The air was fresher. The food was better. The men had clean clothes and proper beds. And something remarkable happened. The death rate began to fall. It fell dramatically. When Florence arrived, roughly 42 out of every 100 patients died. Within months, that number dropped to just 2 out of every 100. 42 became 2, because one woman decided to clean a hospital. And every night, when the doctors had gone home and the wards were dark and quiet, Florence walked. She carried a small oil lamp and moved through the long corridors, checking on every single patient. She knelt beside men who were afraid. She held the hands of men who were dying. She wrote letters home for soldiers who could not write themselves. The soldiers loved her. They called her the Lady with the Lamp. It is said that some of them kissed her shadow on the wall as she passed by. A famous poet named Henry Wadsworth Longfellow wrote a poem about her. He described the wounded soldiers lying in their beds at night, and then, "A lady with a lamp I see, pass through the glimmering gloom, and flit from room to room." That image, the woman with the lamp, became one of the most famous images of the 19th century. When the war ended in 1856, Florence returned to England. She was the most famous woman in the country. People wanted to celebrate her. They wanted parades and banquets and medals. But Florence did not want fame. She wanted something far more important. She wanted to make sure that no soldier would ever die in a dirty hospital again. And here is the part of the story that may surprise you most. Florence Nightingale did not just change hospitals with soap and clean bandages. She changed them with numbers. Remember, Florence loved mathematics. She had a sharp mind for data. During her time at Scutari, she had carefully recorded everything. Every death, every cause of death, every disease, every condition in every ward. She had built an enormous collection of information. Now, back in England, she used that information to tell a powerful story. She created special diagrams, colorful charts, that showed, clearly and simply, what had really killed the soldiers. Her most famous diagram was shaped like a flower. Each piece of the flower represented a different cause of death, and the largest pieces by far were not battle wounds. They were preventable diseases. Diseases caused by dirty water, poor food, and overcrowded hospitals. She sent these diagrams to politicians, to military leaders, and to Queen Victoria herself. Remember, these were powerful men who had ignored reports and letters for years. But when they saw Florence's diagrams, they understood immediately. A picture can say what 1,000 words cannot. The pictures were so clear that no one could argue with them. The numbers told the truth. And the truth demanded change. Today, experts in mathematics and data call Florence Nightingale one of the pioneers of information graphics. She did not just save lives with her hands and her lamp. She saved future lives with her mind. The government listened. They reformed the military hospitals. They improved sanitation. They changed how soldiers were cared for across the entire British Empire. Florence Nightingale, the woman with the lamp, had used the power of mathematics to save thousands of future lives. In 1860, she founded the Nightingale Training School for Nurses at St. Thomas's Hospital in London. It was the first professional nursing school in the world. For the first time, nursing was taught as a serious, skilled, and respected profession. Young women came from across England, and then from across the world, to learn. They studied cleanliness, patient care, nutrition, and hospital management. They learned how to observe patients carefully and how to keep detailed records. These young women went out into the world and built new hospitals, trained new nurses, and spread Florence's ideas to every corner of the globe. Florence also wrote a famous book called Notes on Nursing that became a guide for hospitals everywhere. She spent much of her later life working from her bed. Her health had been damaged during the years at Scutari, and she was often too weak to stand. But she never stopped working. She wrote thousands of letters. She advised governments. She pushed for better hospitals, better training, and better care for the poor and the sick. She worked until she was very old. Florence Nightingale died on the 13th of August, 1910. She was 90 years old. Today, the 12th of May, the day Florence Nightingale was born, is International Nurses' Day. Every year, nurses around the world are honored on her birthday. Her name has become a symbol of compassion, courage, and care. And so, my friend, the story of the lady with the lamp comes gently to its end. She was born into wealth and comfort. She could have lived an easy life. But she heard a voice inside her that told her she was meant for something more. She followed that voice through 10 years of refusal, across a continent, and into the darkest hospital in the world. She did not carry a sword. She did not lead an army. She carried a lamp, a small, simple oil lamp. And with that lamp, she walked into the darkness and refused to leave until the darkness changed. Now, my friend, I want you to think about your own lamp. Learning a language is sometimes like walking through a long, dark corridor. Some nights the words feel far away. Some days the grammar feels impossible. Some moments you wonder if you are making any progress at all. But you are here. You are listening. You are carrying your own small lamp through your own kind of darkness. And every word you understand, every sentence that becomes a little clearer, every story you follow from beginning to end, that is your light growing stronger. Florence Nightingale showed the world that you do not need a weapon to change things. You do not need power or fame or an army. You need only a small light and the courage to carry it forward. Keep carrying your light. Keep listening. Keep learning. And never stop moving forward. This is Storytime English. If Florence's story touched you today, please leave a comment. Tell me what surprised you most. Was it the 10 years of waiting, the terrible hospital, or the way she used numbers to change the world? I would love to hear from you. There are many more stories waiting right here, and I will be here when you come back. Until next time, my friend, take care of yourself and never stop learning.